The Chargers just won an insane game in Minneapolis against the Vikings, and I was there to watch it. So these are going to be my instant reactions to the game. Something I do every single week, but something that's a little bit spicier this week because I was actually there. And this was my first game I've ever been to NFL, and of course Chargers is my first NFL game, and it was seriously incredible. The Minnesota venue was great, and the fans were also very well. The Vikings fans, they weren't causing any problems, but this game was great. From start to finish, it was amazing. The way it ended was intense, it was stressful, and honestly, I think this week, in almost all regards, the Chargers disproved all of the bad things that have been said, but the Vikings still showed a lot of good stuff. So let's kind of go through some of the things here for both these teams. These teams both entered 0-2. Now, of course, Chargers are 1-2. The Vikings are 0-3. Vikings staring down, I think, like a less than 2% chance of making the playoffs after this. And Justin Jefferson went down with a seemingly really bad injury. He was down for a long while, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to be going on with him. They're not in a great spot. Honestly, I have really high expectations, and I thought they were going to be a potential deep run playoff team. I'm not so sure if they're going to be able to do that. Still, that's the biggest thing. That's squeaky, but hopefully get some more light in here. I'm a little bit worried about the Vikings season. They have a team that I think could really go far. They did lose some pieces from last year. Of course, they lose Dalvin Cook. They lose Eric Kendricks to the Chargers. Now, he's only played one game, and we're going to cover Eric Kendricks and linebacker in a second here, but both these teams had a lot going for them. The Vikings still did really good. Their offense looked really good. I think, Justin Jefferson went over 150, so that was his third game in a row, and everything looked really, really good. But for the Chargers, your defense was catching so much slack. I think before this game, they were allowing the most points in the entire league. This year, you slow down a Vikings offense. Now, you still allow a good amount, 24 points, I believe, is what it was. But in the end, your defense was a big part of why you won here. Alohi Gilman with a huge, huge forced fumble, ripping it out of TJ Hawkinson's arm, which is insane. The fact that he was able to do that against TJ Hawkinson, that was incredible. He had another one later in the game, which I personally think should have counted. I don't know how that doesn't count. And the whole stadium, the reaction after it occurred, everyone knew, that's a fumble. And when it overturned it, everyone was just kind of like even Vikings fans around me were like, I don't know about that. Everyone kind of knew, that really shouldn't be the Vikings ball again. They were happy about it, and they got 3 points off of it. But I think that should have definitely been one. Alohi Gilman almost had another interception later on. I think he almost had one, and it hit turf or something like that. And, of course, the game finisher with K9 getting the interception, bouncing up in the air, and he recovers it, and that ends up with a touchdown. But before that, you have the 4th and 1 attempt by Brandon Staley from your offense. Your offense struggling. Nearly a 3-and-out situation there in a must-win scenario, and you go for it on 4th down. Very questionable, and you end up failing. Now, if you win, you're going to get a lot of praise, and, he has the nuts to do that. And I think win or lose, that's something that he is going to stand by. If you get that, you won the game for your team. But you don't, and now it's up to your defense. And Brandon Staley, although I'm not sure if he's still the main one calling the plays or if he's just kind of giving options, I don't know how that's working behind the scenes, but you get your defense to come up big for you. And although it was kind of a random play because you get that interception, and it wasn't really like a written up play to get that, to make it happen, but your defense did make the big stop there. And you kind of screwed yourself over a little bit with a holding call, which ended up making it first. I think it was a holding call, which ended up forcing a first down, automatic first down. Asante Samuel Jr. almost had an interception on that same drive. The defense did look really, really good on that final drive. I will give him that if he's still calling those plays. But 4th and 1, they got no timeouts. I think you just punt that. You make them drive all the way down the field. They don't have a whole lot of time. I think that would have probably been the smarter decision. For some reason, they choose not to do that. Not entirely sure why, but it ends up working out in the Chargers' favor. Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen, two major topics going to this year. Definitely Justin Herbert's been a bigger topic the past couple weeks here. Keenan Allen, entering the year, everyone was saying, get rid of Keenan. He's going old. He's not going to be good anymore. Keenan Allen, today, over 200 yards. Maybe one of Keenan's best games ever. Over 200 yards. He gets a passing touchdown, which that play was insane. That was electric. All game I had been badgering Kellen Moore. I'm so sick of these screenplays. I was counting every single screenplay that was coming, and it was just like I was getting so sick of it. So when he did that, and I'm like, oh, another screenplay, and then he pulls that out and he gets a touchdown, that was amazing. And they were wide open. Mike Williams was wide open. There was another tight end with him on that side. I don't entirely remember because I was screaming so loud. I'm assuming it was probably like Palmer or Quentin Johnston. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Quentin Johnston. But they were absolutely wide open. That play was incredible. I mean, there's nothing else you can say about that. And it was so smart because you do those screenplays over and over, and they're predicting it, and those screenplays kept going to Keenan. So you see that screenplay. You're as a defense, you see, the wide receivers, they wash away. Oh, the wide receivers screwed up their blocks. They messed up. This is a free shot to go get that tackle on Keenan Allen. Get, forced them to lose some yards on this. And then over the top, Keenan threw a really, really good ball. Mike did have to slow down, but that was a really, really good ball by Keenan Allen. And you go and you get that amazing touchdown. The next touchdown for the Bolts is the Joshua Palmer touchdown, which pretty much was the interception. It goes up in the air, bounces in the air, similar to the K9 interception, and Palmer comes down with it. Great catch by him. And Chicken Parm with 2 touchdowns early on, the first 2 of the game. And that second one was brilliant. The ball placement by Herbert was just perfect, and it almost looked like Parham ripped it out of the defender's arms. That game was phenomenal. That offense, honestly, our offense was firing on all cylinders. Run game definitely wasn't so much. I think unless it changed very late at the end, Justin Herbert might have been the leading rusher, at least for most of the game, with like 12 yards. I think it probably ended up shifting towards later in the game, but it was not looking good in the run game. Hopefully you get Austin Eckler back. That'll make a big factor into it. And you were going against one of the worst, if not the worst, run defensive teams in the league. So I'm not sure what was going on there. Hopefully you can get that going. I think Isaiah Spiller looked pretty good. Joshua Kelly, he also looked good. The line wasn't doing a whole lot to help him there, but every time he made contact, he was getting more yards afterwards. So he was still doing really, really good. But yeah, the offense looked amazing. Herbert had 400-plus yards, 407, 3 touchdowns because Keenan had that 4th one. Herbert looked amazing. Now, the only bad gripe about Herbert, and it's not entirely on Herbert because you didn't put it in his hands on the 4th down play, Herbert couldn't go finish the game for you. You were already up, so you didn't need a touchdown, so that doesn't add to that. Everyone's saying Herbert can't go get a touchdown when they need it, but he wasn't able to get that 1st down to ice the game. That still kind of goes on him, but the 3rd down play was a 9-yard gain to Keenan Allen, pretty much an inches situation, but it was still 4th and 1, technically speaking. The play call, I don't even think was bad. Honestly, I don't think it was bad. It was expected. It was easily expectable, but with how Kelly was going all game, I think it was Kelly. Maybe it was Horvath, but I do think it was Kelly. Correct me if I'm wrong. The way Kelly was going all game, he was always getting yards off the contact. And even if it was Horvath, he is a very strong back. I could see them getting that 1 yard. So I'm not opposed to that play call. If you're going to go for it, I'm not opposed to that being the play call that you go with because you're expecting these guys to get you that 1 yard, and they do it over and over again, so you're expecting it, even if the defense knows it's coming. So I'm not opposed to the play call if you're already going for it. Would I went for it? No. And I would say I'm not a conservative fan. I'm always like, hey, let's go for this 4th down. Let's go for this 4th down. Even the I'm not sure how far it was, but the Dicker the kicker field goal that he ended up missing a little bit to the left, it was a longer distance on that 4th down. I was still kind of okay with going for it there and trying to get that and go get a touchdown. Now, I believe in Dicker the kicker. I was almost positive he made it when I'm watching on the field. Of course, I looked at the big screen and it was left because I was midfield, so I couldn't see the left and right. I just saw the distance. I was almost positive he made it. He had the distance. He missed it. But I still kind of want to go for it. So I'm definitely not a conservative person, but I would have punted in that 4th and 1 scenario at the end of the game. As for the Vikings looked really, really good. And Madison, that is what I expected him to look like at the start of the year. A lot of people thought he was going to do really, really good. I know I kind of wanted the Chargers to get him. I know the director, another Chargers content creator that almost all of you probably watch, really wanted the Chargers to go get him to kind of be that RB2 potentially. And this is what I expected from him. He was getting a lot of yards every single time he touched it. He had so many yards. The first drive, he had a ton. The start of the second half, he had a ton of touches on both those drives. Got multiple first downs just from him. Even on 1st and 10, he was going to get those first downs. Madison looked great. He went down with an injury. He did come back in, and he continued to look great. Madison looked phenomenal. Justin Jefferson looked phenomenal. 150-plus yards, a touchdown, which he just burned people on, like speed-wise. Route-wise, too, but definitely speed-wise, because JT Woods was close, and that was after Derwin got hurt. So if Derwin was in, I don't think that touchdown happens if Derwin was in. I don't even know what happened to Derwin. He didn't go down. He just walked off, so not sure what happened there. But Justin Jefferson looked great. Madison looked great. T.J. Hockenson also looked good. He came back in after his injury, if I do recall correctly. But he had that fumble early on, which was a huge, huge thing. Hockenson was about the only player on the Vikings that I was okay with having a really good game, because I do like Hockenson as a player with the Vikings and also before being on the Vikings. So I was okay with him having a great game. I don't think he had a great game. Maybe I'll go back and look at the stats in my actual post-game report, not my Insta reactions. But great game. Vikings played really good offensively. Defensively, they didn't even play too bad. Just the big plays were adding up, which is crazy to think that the Chargers' big plays were the reason to win the game, because that was the thing. Early on in the game, too, it was a lot of dink and dunk. It was a little bit annoying, lots of screen plays, short things, and Keenan Allen was doing all of the work. But later on, Justin Herbert was doing it. There was constantly 10, 15-yard gains that were because of Justin Herbert. A lot of them went to Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, seriously, maybe his best game ever, and that was amazing that he got to be there. And he is the number 1 wide receiver for the Chargers in receiving yards, or in the entire wide receiver, tight end, whatever, in receiving yards. That was incredible. And they didn't put anything on the big screen, which I thought was silly. It happened right about the same time that Kirk Cousins became the second most for touchdowns for the Vikings. So they could have done both. I guess it's an away game, so you choose not to do that. Not really sure with that. I kind of wish they would have done something, but that's okay. Vikings look good. Defense didn't look terrible for them. Chargers defense looked pretty good. I mean, you have 2 turnovers. You had a couple sacks. I think Thule had 2. Bosa had 1. Still nothing from Mac, but those turnovers were big. The offense looked almost untouchable. And, the big thing that's kind of floating around, you move to 1-2. You're only 1 game back from the division, I think. Say, if Chiefs lose next week and Chargers win next week against the Raiders, they might be the number 1 team in the division, if I recall. If not, the Chargers are only 2 games back, or 1.5 games back, whatever it is. Chargers aren't far from the division. At a 1-2, there's already been a lot of slack. You're in a spot where you're still definitely in contention for the playoffs. It's not as dire as 0-3 would have been. But Staley's on the hot seat, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired still. I mean, his defense stood up. They only allowed 24 points. You got 2 big turnovers, one in a massive moment. But you still allowed 150 yards to Justin Jefferson. You allowed a lot to Madison, and they're not a great rushing team, and you allowed a lot to them. Your defense did. You go for on 4th and 1, it doesn't work out, you only win because your players won the game for you, not your coaching. And the only reason why you won that game was because the offense was so good. And that's Kellen Moore, not Brandon Staley. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up still getting fired. It's hard to fire a coach after a win, and I don't really think the Charger organization is a team organization that would do that. But I wouldn't be shocked by it. As for if I think it should happen, which I was kind of leaning on fire Staley the past couple of weeks here, I'm still okay with it. Yes, you got the win, but it wasn't because Staley. It was because Moore and the players. More than anything, it was because the players. But Kellen Moore drew a great game plan. There was a lot of times where people were wide. Keenan Allen was wide open all the time, and that's because routes. Keenan Allen's burning people. He's confusing people, but that's Kellen Moore drawing up the plays and finding the gaps in the defense before the play even starts and knowing where the gaps are going to be. Keenan Allen was destroying people. I mean destroying people. I don't know if you guys saw it live, but he was just burning people all the time. But Kellen Moore was making those plays. So Kellen Moore and the players were a big part of it. But defensively, that was all the players. Touching on injuries, Justin Jefferson didn't return. That kind of looks scary. Derwin James, I don't know what happened to him. He went out. Mike Williams' injury looked really scary. I don't know how early they cut out for you guys on the TV, but it looked really bad, to say the least. Bosa played, which was great. Rumpf played, which was great. T.J. Hockenson came back in. But I think to end this, Staley is still on the hot seat. And I wouldn't be opposed to him getting fired, giving Kellen Moore the head coaching position for Week 4, letting him make his mistakes in Week 4 against an easier matchup against the Raiders, and let him make his mistakes. Hopefully move to 2-2, so you're at 500 at the bye week. And worst case scenario, he's able to learn in that bye week, and then Week 5, Kellen Moore really takes off. I'm not opposed to that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm not opposed to it. But those are my instant reactions. There'll be a more in-depth video here soon, but I wanted to get these out, especially after being at the game. This was incredible, especially for my first game. But what did you guys think about the game? If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And as always, I hope you learned something today. Hope it made you smile, hope it made you laugh. Something really important to me. Affects most of the day in a great way. And as always, you guys all be safe out there.